Hey everybody, welcome back to Old Bearded Gaming. We're doing something a little bit different here. We've got, because, I'm old, a little bit of retro gaming for you, but in kind of a new way. So, Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup is a roguelike game that offers both a download experience, you can play it completely offline, though there is no leaderboard in tracking, which is kind of one of the cool appeals to playing it online. It's completely a browser game. The URL is up there in the top left. I'll also put it in the description. Pretty simple. It's crawl.develz.org. And that will launch you to this page here, which will automatically connect you to the nearest server, depending on where you are in the world, with this big green Play Online Now button. There's also some really interesting stuff here on the splash screen. You can join and watch and spectate and even chat with other people who are in the dungeon playing. You can do this for anybody who's playing online, which is kind of cool. It's like its own little mini streaming service that's built into this game. You can scroll down and also find latest updates. The game is really cool in that it allows you to play on older versions as they're constantly making updates, tweaks, changes, etc. And you'll see a little bit more about that when we get into the actual launch of the game. But there's also additional resources here as well. Links to the community wiki, super helpful, lots of information. Being a roguelike, for those that are not familiar with them, they can be a little in depth, to be perfectly honest. So what this game does, and it does it really in a couple different ways. Uh, the version that we're going to be playing, the online version, is called Web Tiles, and what that does is it's taking the traditional ASCII, very simple, character, with the equal signs and the tildes and each letter representing a different monster, etc. Right? Version of old school, 1980s style rogue games, and converting those into these graphical tiles, right? So you get a little bit more immersion. It's a little bit more updated for for current gaming preferences. But you can also play it in that very old school sense, and so there are some options there all the way around. We're going to click on Play Online. I'm located in the Pacific Northwest, so it's connecting me to the nearest server, which is located in Arizona. And boom, here we go. We created a new account here for Old Bearded Gaming. I did have a personal account that existed where I've played around with this over the last year or so. So by all means, I am no way an expert when it comes to playing this game, but this is what you're presented with when you first log in, okay? And you go online to play. So you can scroll down and see all the current users that are currently playing, and you can click on any of them and immediately start watching their gameplay, and what they're doing. Additionally, you can also see some information about their run, how long they've been idle. Over here, the last milestone that they completed in the game, what version of the game that they're running, okay? How many experience, what experience level that they're at. You can see here what type of character, and we'll break this down a little bit more, but in short, it is your race of the first two letters. So, here, MI. For this guy here, that would be Minotaur. And then the last two letters are the starter kind of build out or classes, I guess you could say, which FI would be for fighter. So a Minotaur fighter is what they rolled to start with. And we'll get deep into a lot of this. Don't pay too much attention to it for right now. Place shows you where they are. They're in the main dungeon. They're on the third floor. The dungeon has several branches that go out. So, we've got Lair, which is one of the branches. Shoal, which is one of the branches. This guy here is in an ice cave. There's a sewer, the abyss. Zot, which is kind of like the last area of the game. Depths, another branch to kind of go into, and so on and so forth. Also shows you how many turns they've taken, how long the run's been going, what god they're worshiping. Gods are a thing in this game. It's pretty cool. Adds another layer of depth and complexity. Each god has kind of their own criteria, I guess we could say, and what they do. I don't know a ton about all the gods that exist in this game, and they're constantly kind of tweaking and modifying these a little bit too. Akawaru is one that I am familiar with because it's a very newbie kind of new player friendly type of a god. He doesn't really mind too much if you quit following him type of a deal, but he just wants to reward you for killing things, and allows you some great stat buffs, which you can spend some resources to be able to do that, some worshipping points, so to speak, to be able to get temporary buffs based off of your invocation skill. How well do you worship gods, I guess we can say. And will grant you gifts, which is really super awesome. And those gifts can be pretty cool. They can have a lot of attributes to them, a lot of special properties and whatnot. So there's a lot to unpack here, right? But the primary thing that you're going to be interested in is coming up here and choosing, okay, what version am I going to play? What am I clicking on at its fundamental level, right, to be able to get into this game? And normally we would just simply be playing the current release, but I have been playing around with what they call the trunk, which is their current kind of test. Updates and revisions and whatnot before they release the next stable version. And when they do that, it usually corresponds with some sort of a tournament that'll go on for a couple weeks after they post it. So what we see here, 0.28, that is the current release. This has been going on for a little while now. You can go back to older versions, okay, and be able to play off of those. For those that don't like the changes, it goes all the way back to 0.11, update. But I like to see what they're changing, what they're doing, and I think this will be a great place for us to start as we go through these playthroughs. Now, you see here, Old Bearded Gaming, a level 1 Minotaur fighter. I already have created a character just to kind of test and show you guys what you would see when you leave the game. This game is, for all intents and purposes, a hardcore game. Okay, you only get one life with your character. There is no offline work that can be done. It's just while you're in the dungeon, you're playing your character, and when they die, they die. And that's it. You're actually presented with a really cool, what they call a morgue file. It's a big, long text document, and you can actually extract it. You can share it. There's a pretty robust Reddit community as well for this game. So if you have questions or you want to ask, like, hey, what could I have done in this situation? You can post your morgue file out there for people to look at, and they'll give you feedback. There's a lot of really talented, really knowledgeable players out there who play this that have just a wealth of information that they just know off the top of their head. So really, really helpful for learning how to get kind of deep into this game. So let's talk about the premise of the game a little bit here. So we're gonna log in with our character here. This is actually just the starting place where I happen to log in for the first dungeon, and what we're gonna do is actually kind of show you some of the depth of modification, right? So, when you're playing, there's a lot that we can be kind of looking at or whatnot, and it can be overwhelming. So the first thing that I like to tell people when I introduce them to this game is hit your question mark button, okay? Question mark gives you this pop-up menu, and as you can see, there are a lot of entries in here, things to talk about. We will kind of unpack most of this content information here as we go through and start playing the game, okay? I don't think we need to go through and read all of this. You guys can absolutely do that on your own as well. But there's a lot of information here. What's helpful, though, when you first get started is hit question mark again once you have this up. And this gives you the bare bones minimum of what you need to know for how do you move around, how do you rest. Resting is a important part of most roguelikes, okay? It regenerates hit points and things like that. Controls for how to save and exit, right? You can also abandon your character, which we're actually going to do because I want to show you the character creation process. But you can get in here and change your display screen status. You can look at information about your abilities and current mutations that you have. That's important later on, particularly towards the end parts of, well, we'll call it the end parts of the game. There's mobs that can mutate you, and not always for the best. Some mutations are great and are sought after. Others, not so much. We can take a look and see what spells we've memorized. It's actually a pretty depth spellcasting system. I'm not the best at it. In fact, I tend not to, and have not yet succeeded at a spellcaster completing the game. And I say complete the game. There's like a ginormous asterisk over that phrase, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. But all sorts of commands, here, how to get into various menus, shortcuts, and things for interacting with the dungeon, how to view various information, right? With potions and rings and scrolls. It's very typical, very roguelike. A lot of the same shortcuts that you know and love from other rogue games are very much the same. And if they're not, what you can do is you can hit the tilde key, okay, and that's that shift and that little key that's just to the left of the number 1 on most keyboards, right, to get to this menu. And you can come up here to edit macros. And from here you can change key maps and you can change macros. And the reason that I elected to start with a character already existing to show you this is when you make these changes and saves, they're persistent for every character. So if we were to play this and die, any changes and macros that I created here would stay to my next character within that same release version. Okay, so this is actually, mine is blank and empty because I just started playing Trunk. I hadn't done it for more than like 2 attempts, so to speak, and I have not brought over my macros from my 0.28 character playthrough. So we're going to show you how to do this real quick because this is where I think a lot of newer players have a little bit of frustration is the game, it feels kind of clunky, it's weird, I don't know what all the commands are, etc. Well, you can map those out for yourself for what you want to do. So we're gonna make one macro, and the macro that we're gonna make is for the / key, and I'm gonna map that to the lowercase o. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because I like to control my character from my 10 key, and that /, which is also the divide key, right, is very easy to hit right there. And O is kind of the auto explore button, so you don't have to always be hitting up, down, left, right, etc. to navigate one square at a time. O will take you through the dungeon until it comes across something of interest, whether that's a monster or an item that you have set in your list of things that, hey, I'm interested in these items. There are some that are selected by default. You can modify it. A lot of people have custom what are called RC files that specifically define things that they're interested in for runs and custom change some of the messaging and so on and so forth. Like I said, a lot of customizing available to this game, but we're just going to do that. And then we're going to edit just a couple of key maps, just rekeying some things. So we're going to change the minus sign to be the down button. So when we're over a stair, we can go down. We are also going to change the plus sign, which is going to be for going up. So we've got that. And then we are going to change the asterisk, the multiplication sign, and we are going to have that be this other little code here. And this is a more of like a combat related type of a thing. So there we go. Cool. Okay, so now that that's set, so we are going to go back to the tilde, which is that little main menu here, and we're going to hit capital Q, which is quit an abandoned character. And it's like, you sure you want to do that? YES, yes we are. Boom, it says, hey, here's what you died with. This was what was on your inventory, which was just our starting stuff. We literally didn't take a single step for this character. No surprise, our score, 0. There we go. All this information saved. Yeah, we're not making any top lists by chickening out and quitting. So, yeah, so we hit enter. Takes us back here, gives you a link. You can go to your morgue file, or you can close this out. So here we are back on the main screen again, still signed into the web tiles, and we're able to click on here to DCSS Trunk, which is again that the current test version that's out there. One of the reasons that we're playing Trunk, because something that I want to try out, is that they have combined some of the skills. There used to be a separate skill for using slings, for using bows, for using crossbows, etc. So you have to be very kind of prudent a little bit about how you're assigning experience points to go into various skills to get better at them. And a lot of times just based off of what you find in the dungeon would dictate that. Well, in this new Trunk, what is to be the new 2.9 or 0.29 release, they've combined it all into just ranged, into just one skill, which actually saves potentially a lot of a lot of headache and indecision of what we should allocate points to, because ranged weapons and any ranged attacks, honestly, very good in the early game, and honestly all the way through the end game, to help survive and kind of soften things up before things even get to you, which can be very, very handy. Um, you heard me talk a little bit about the RC file. That's what this is here. It gives you this pop-up. There's plenty of things in here that you can go in and modify, and there's people on Reddit, people in the community forums and stuff that have these massive modified RC files that you can do. Again, that's something that you can really get deep into. I don't really mess around too much with it, especially not for the interim here. But let's get to it. Let's have a little bit of fun and just kind of showcase what this is about. So we're going to click on DCSS trunk, and it says, hey, pick your species. Okay, each one of these you highlight over, and it talks a little bit about kind of what they are and what they're good at doing. But they are broken up into the simple category, the intermediate category, and the advanced category. One of the goals that I have for myself, just as a gamer, because you guys know me by now, I like having goals. I like beating things and being a bit of a completionist at some of the things that I do. I want to get what is called a 3 orb win. Okay, three rune win with every character and every combination of class. That will take some time. Okay, because not every race is built equal or has an equal chance at surviving. These simple ones, they have advantages that some of these other ones just don't have. They're a lot hardier. They have a lot more in terms of the buffs that they get for using experience points to level up various skills that are useful for getting through the dungeon. The advanced ones over here, by comparison, a lot of them, super squishy. Very soft. A lot of like octopods here. These guys are crazy. They have 8 arms. You can wield 8 different things. You could have a ring on every arm, where normally you're limited to just 2. Sounds awesome. Sounds pretty cool, but they can't really wear armor like almost at all. And it can be really, really crazy because even in the early game, things can just kind of one-shot kill you. So it happens. Death is inevitable with this game. So these are reserved for a bit more of a challenge. So what we're going to start with is something that I think most people will be able to resonate with. It's a very simple, straightforward start, the Minotaur. The Minotaur doesn't really have a lot of drawbacks. They have some pluses. There's some good things that we can get from that. And then this takes us to our class selection. Okay. Now all of these are basically what these do. Okay. And even though some are not highlighted white, you can still select them for a bit of a challenge. The lighter color, the white colored ones are the quote-unquote recommended. They call them backgrounds, right? I call them classes, for your race that pair really well. But there's nothing that says you can't be, any one of these. In fact, like I said, one of the things I want to do is take, Minotaur, and I want to beat the game with every one of these starting backgrounds. The cool thing about the backgrounds is that they don't lock you into anything, right? And I'm forgetting the word here off the top of my head, but your learning, what is it called? Your ability to learn various skills, right, is not the same for every race. So a Minotaur is very good at learning fighting skills, so you get a bit of a bonus to that. In fact, we're gonna start with a fighter, okay, and we're gonna start with a war axe. Axes are very good. They do kind of AOE damage, so when mobs are all around, this is a tank and spank kind of a build out, right? Very simple to get in and play. A nice way to kind of start the game and learn about things. So we started in this room here with a little bit of water. This is kind of an interesting little start. On floor 1, we can hit I and take a look at our inventory. We got a war axe, we got some scale mail, we got a little buckler, and we start with a potion of might. Gives us a buff to some stats. We can, let's see here. Whoops. M. There we go. M takes us to our skills. Aptitude. That was the word I was thinking of. I lost it there for a bit. Aptitude. So we see that our Minotaur has some base starting skills, right? So we've got some levels here. So M brought up this page, okay, to look at our skills, and then I'm going to tap backslash here. That's auto, that's manual mode. We want it in manual mode, and then using exclamation mark toggles between these pages, okay. So training tells me, you know, hey, what is my current allocation of gaining experience, putting points into, right? And so we see our level over here. Like fighting is 3.6. 1/4 of all experience I'm getting is going into here. That 1/4, right, to get up to another level, I've got a bit of aptitude for learning that. Meanwhile, spellcasting is like a -4, right? And that's not to say that you can't learn spellcasting. You absolutely can. It's just going to cost you more experience to do it. And that's where some of the challenges come in, right? Like, again, I said I want to take a Minotaur and I want to beat it with every background. Eventually, some of those backgrounds are going to be spellcasting ones. We're going to need to do that. But you can see what some of the challenges you have to overcome with are, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on, just by hitting the letter G and then I. Dodging and stealth is really nice for survival. And actually, we're going to turn off shields for right now. We've got a small little buckler. 3.6 is okay for that for right now in skill. But I want to start getting dodging and stealth up because we don't have any. You know, we don't have any points in that. And then same with armor. I'm turning that off for right now. We can gain more of that a little bit later. And you can actually pick one or multiple things actually that you want extra focus in. So I'm going to hit axes again. So now I'm getting double the amount of focus into my axes, and everything else is getting a reduced amount. So 40% is going into my axe, 20% going into just general fighting skill, dodging, and stealth. And this is how we're going to start out. Okay. So again, movement. Pretty simple, up, down, right. You know, we waited there for a second. You see there's darker water, lighter water. Depth is a thing. I tried to go right into the darker water. Can't do that. But I can go diagonals. And so again, I can move around, you know, 1 square at a time. Goblin came into view, right? We're right here around the corner. You know, we're going to go fight this guy. What I'm going to do is hit the period button, which waits 1 turn, and let him kind of come to me. And then I'm going to attack him. And you attack just simply by moving into them. Or that, what do you call it? That asterisk button that we mapped, you know, the other command to. Down here in the bottom left, you get a readout, right? So we hit that asterisk button once. So we took a swing. You closely miss the goblin. Goblin barely misses you. You furiously retaliate, and I headbutted the goblin. Now you see that little health bar kind of underneath him. I don't know if it's super visible or not on the screen, but there's a little health bar underneath him. He took damage from that headbutt that I did. The headbutt is a reactionary ability, a mutation, if you will, specific to the Minotaur. And if we go into capital A, so Shift A, we can see innate abilities, weirdness, and mutations category. I have a pair of horns on my head, and I reflectively headbutt those who attack me in melee range. So that's just one of the built-in perks of being a Minotaur. So that's where that comes from. So we're going to attack this guy again. We miss. Boom, we killed him. When we killed him, we got some experience. In fact, if we go back to our little level here, it's not a lot. It was a single guy, and it really doesn't reflect much much change, right? We're level 1, this little goblin. But he also drops some stuff on the ground. So if I move over it, it'll tell me what's on the ground there. There's a club and a corpse. Not useful. Don't really need any of it. We're going to move on. We already identified some stairs that go down. You guys notice the mini map over there on the right. It auto builds out the map as we go. We should also be able to see the full map, and I'm trying to remember what the exact button is. That's where the question marks come in handy to be able to come up here and take a look at what that looks like. Let's see here. Interaction. Dungeon overview. Where's my map? There's a button for seeing the bigger map. As you can tell, I'm a little bit removed from playing the game. Most of this stuff becomes second nature the more you play. It it gets ingrained in you. Let's see here. Oh, X. Okay, so capital X. Zooms out, shows you. You can move the map around without moving your character, and you can also use your mouse to click on something. So if I wanted to, click on a thing here, let's get out of the bigger map view, right? So I can use my mouse to click where I want to go. So that's one way of movement, but you can also do it with your directional keys. So we got some gold down here. Gold is one of the items that was highlighted green, kind of all the way around it, showing that we can auto pick it up. One of the other features here, and this is why we mapped the divide button, the backslash button to O, is for the auto explorer. Whoops. It auto explored, and it shows you the trail of your feet of where you've walked until it found something of interest, and this something of interest happened to be a mob. So we're going to attack this guy. We took a little bit of damage. We killed him. He dropped a short sword. Not important. Killed that guy. Nothing really that we need. There isn't any reason to pick up items that you're not going to need, and this is important because there is no ability to sell stuff. There are shopkeeps. There are shops that you can buy things from for gold, but you can't sell things. Kind of one thing that I think a lot of people want, but it's a big balance issue, right? Like, you could just go around and kill these things. They don't respawn. Like, once you've cleared out a level, it's basically cleared out until the very, very end of the game when you're trying to escape, which we'll talk a little bit about more in another episode when we talk a little bit more about the direction and goals of the game. But it's important to know at the beginning, don't be a pack rat and pick up everything that you don't need. Try to limit just to picking up things that you need. Scrolls, potions, and gear that's actually of benefit, and maybe some unique items. They're called rands. They have random attributes to them, weapons that may be important later, or if you just don't know if something's good or not, right? So we're exploring around, and you see we jumped through a lot of the map there with just a couple button pushes of O for exploration. We found another guy, killed him. That's a trap there. It's a teleport trap. I can actually step on it. It's going to take me somewhere else. It's going to ask, do I really want to do it? And I tell it yes. It blinked me. That's kind of cool. It just blinked me back. But there we go. We got through it. So let's see. We picked up. So we did a explore until we find something, and it found some black potions on the ground, and it auto picked them up for us. So these are actually in our inventory already. Now, cool thing about potions and scrolls, right? They're not identified, immediately, not usually. So we have one scroll, we don't know what it does, and we have some potions, we don't know what it does. So we're going to read the one scroll we have, G. Oh, it was a smoke scroll, which is going to reduce accuracy of mobs that are in that area. Not really making much of a difference for us, but we're going to come up here, kill these mobs. There we go, and we reached level 2. Fantastic. Couple items on the ground here, and let's see here. To see all those items, I'm trying to remember what that button is. Let's see here. These stairs, examine occupied tile. It's the semicolon, I think. Oops. No, that's just telling me there are several items there. I want the command that is to pick up a particular item. Examine occupied tile and pick up part of a single stack. It should just be semicolon, I thought. Oh, it's comma or G. Okay. Okay, so we picked up those stones, which is all part of missile weapons. And now, because we have those, you see we now have a throwing skill. So we can choose to allocate some points into that if we wanted to. As we've now leveled up, we've killed some stuff. You see we've got a couple points into, or tenths of points into dodging and stealth. So, progress is happening. So, yeah, let's finish out this level here real quick. We've got some mobs. Kill that. There's a robe on the ground, not useful. Snake is dead. Lizard. Ooh, we picked up a scarf. Let's wear that. Scarf of Shadows, A. Whoops. It says it gets dark. If we come into our inventory, I, and go down to that scarf of shadows and click I, it gives you some lore. It tells you the armor rating. It reduces the distance the wearer can be seen at and can see. So it's kind of interesting because it like limits where we see mobs, but it also limits whether they see us or not. Um, so we're gonna take it off just because it's not adding any armor right now, and we want the light level. So dagger or hand axe and a dagger of speed. We're using axes, but we already have an axe, so nothing that we really need. We got a bat here. Take that guy out. Another bat. Got some armor, some gold. The auto walking will take care of the gold. Now here we've got a whole bunch of mobs, right? And I don't want them to necessarily surround me, so I'm going to kind of back up and let them come to me. And then that way I'm taking them one-on-one, right? Much safer. It's a good practice to be had. Also, stair hopping. If you find some stairs, you can lure something over. Like if it's a bunch of big monsters, try to lure one over to a stair so that only one is somewhere around the cardinals around you, and then go up or down those stairs. Presumably, you want it to be safe. You want to know what's down there or up there, and then they will follow you and break them off from the group, so to speak. So, kind of an advanced tactic, but something that's very useful for survival. Let's see, we got another buckler there, sword or way down. We've got bats, more stones, and then there we go. We try to auto explore. It says done exploring. You can take a look at the big map here. This level is now completely mapped. We've been everywhere that we can be. We can see where all these areas down are. And then what we can do is we can use our mouse to kind of quickly go towards one of these pink dots that we see on the mini-map. These are ways down, okay? So we're going to cut it right here. I hope you guys are interested in this series. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. The game will pick up and go quite a bit faster as we get playing into it. There's going to be a lot of, call it exposition, as we go through to kind of help you guys get familiar with what we're doing and how the playing's going. But I invite all of you, take a peek at this game yourself. Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. Link is in the description. It's been around for a while. Is really one of the more fantastic roguelike adventures that are out there. And it's free to play. It's online. It's easily accessible no matter where you are. Thanks for hanging out with Old Bearded Gaming, guys. We'll see you guys again next time. Take care.